So yeah, I was very excited to be up here talking about ethics and value. Jeremy had suggested that it was possible to change the presentation from the normal one that I gave this morning. I'd say careful what you wish for. Jonathan saw the other one. So this digs deeper into the ethics and value aspects of the project. Hopefully we'll actually get to the project, to wade through the ethics and value. It's like a moth to the flame here. Okay, so oh wait, this is the old one. Okay, well I'm gonna have to do really fast adaptation here. Okay, so this particular project here, where you see this giant orb, a subset of that was what we call creative community number one. And one of the aspects of this is when you look at communities and you say, you know, what is it about a community that's important? And what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? The biggest thing to take away from the presentation that I don't have is the question or the provocation, why should we love this city? And I think I've been to innumerable presentations about urban design and master planning and city design, and nobody really ever digs into the emotional part. They dig into the technical parts, the aspects of sustainability and patterning and even placemaking, but they don't quite get all the way in. So in this particular case, when we talk about the origins of creative communities, it starts with this question, what is a creative community? And starting point is, creative community is a community whose shared value system revolves around the attraction of participatory art, of embracing and sharing self-expression, of empowering and unlocking the inherent creative and imaginative spirit that resides in every human being. So we started doing some workshops on this. We started to look with different people who were involved in, this is at Esalen, by the way, people were wondering, the opposite coast. And what happened is, as we dug into it and dug into what some of those things might mean, we ended up talking about Burning Man. Now, Burning Man, most of you probably haven't been, but to those that you have, I've been 9 times. What Burning Man does is it encourages you to embrace community and kindness through participatory art. And the aspect of participation, whether it's through art, through learning, through something else, is really the essence of how to get people engaged in their communities, and therefore why they should participate on the world stage, why they would want to make the world a better place if they love the community that they're in themselves. And so we did a little brainstorming and a little study on that. And most of you might think of Burning Man as a very, very vibrant place. It's really about community and it's about self-expression. And what do we do there? We make playa art. We have art cars. We also have theme camps. And when you look at this, when you look at a theme camp, what this answers is the question, what would 70,000 people do if they could do anything they wanted, create any environment they want, and they create it themselves, which is the most authentic way to make something. You know, there are few architects, not many. So this is what you get. And as we look at that, at Burning Man, it exists because of this sense of creativity and self-expression and engagement with other people, because not everybody's an artist at Burning Man. People say, well, you know, are you expecting cities to become cities of artists? And I think that's a very good question, but it's a small aspect of what it needs to create vibrancy. So, but what's interesting about Burning Man is 10,000 people will gather a month and a half later and do an urban street party. And it's not coincidental, but you can get this kind of vibrancy within a city. And then you look at what kinds of spaces on a more modern scale you can get, And what this does now is that it just goes into where the project is. And again, sorry, it was the different one than I thought I was going to get. So it's in Reno, Nevada. And this was the project area, which was about 2,500 acres. So it's very large. And you can see in the context of the city, takes up quite a bit of between Sparks and Reno. And a good walk score against the river, which kind of bifurcates the site on both sides. And what we started to do is we looked at this large master plan. And what we're going to look at is a small part of it. So this is all the master plan and the vibrancy of the master plan. That large orb is a portal to the metaverse. It's about 1,600 feet tall. This was based on a design competition that's under an NDA in some other desert. And I redesigned it with an interested client in Reno who wanted to know what would happen if. And he's a housing advocate. So part of this is to look at what's possible in a place like Reno. And there you sort of see the whole layout. And what we did was we divided this into 16 neighborhoods. So we're going to start with neighborhood number 1, hence creative community number 1. And there's also a ritual pathway that links all these together. But what we're going to start with is 24,000 people, 400 acres. And you can see here kind of the density of it and the swirliness of it and sort of the, I guess, a modern version of a medieval layout. The gray line is what connects to the rest of the development, the rest of that little city. But most of this, with the light gray, is where there's some vehicular transportation, but most of it is pedestrian. So what we did was we overlaid live, work, and play, which is currently the normative way that you look at city design or neighborhood design. But we added 2 things, learn and create. And if you think of what AI is going to do and the metaverse is going to do to the way we live and work, we're going to have a lot of bored human beings around, I fear. And this could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think adding learn and create, which is what stimulates the brain, what actually creates connectivity between people, it opens their horizons, is a absolutely critical aspect. And again, we're doing a bit of a utopian community design here, but this is kind of what that little mini community would look like. And in the center with the red oval is what you're seeing is the Learn Center, or the surrounded by that is arcing office buildings. And you can see a little bit closer here into some of the scale of what the architecture might look like, which is a little bit ahead of the urban planning. But I like to do these things in parallel with each other. And so we look at live, work, play, learn, and create again. So what we're going to do is go into live. So here with the live is in green. These are mid-rise, not high-rise. There's an incredible density here. But what happens is on the ground floor, it's either workspace or retail, cafes, and instead of the normative parking garage, we end up with makerspace and creative space and community space. And then some just architectural images of what those things might look like. Here's the diagram with the makerspace in the center, the housing rising up above that, and rooftop gardens. And so these rooftop gardens are all interconnected generally from neighborhood block to neighborhood block. Let's see if so then we get to work. And the work in the large floor plate sort of technology company standard or office standard of 25,000 square feet or so are focused around an urban core in a sense. But the reality is most of those residential blocks that you see around also have office and sort of live workspaces on those lower levels. So this is a little bit of an imagery of what it looks like or could look like. Those are the size of the floor plates. And then kind of a section through. And then play, we intersperse the idea of some of these are green spaces. Some of these are actually plazas and piazzas that are more of a hardscape. And then here's what some of that might have looked like. And the kinds of events and activities that create vibrancy. And so then we get to learn. And the idea here is we have a distribution of learning throughout the community, but we have a cultural center, learning center that provides the core central focus. Now, each of these 16 communities would have a different cultural focus. And in Reno, one of those cultural focuses is the indigenous people that lived there before the colonists came and changed their universe. They are very interested in having a neighborhood that they can craft. So we're not imposing, in fact, even the master plan itself that you see is something that would change depending on the community that was there, because every community might have a different way of organizing their urban life. And so, but this is in balance with another group in Reno, which is called Western Heritage. And what's interesting is as we went through this with the two groups and some of the community outreach, the fact that they could have their kind of own identity and have their own self-expression and be seen and be heard made them much more appreciative of the other side of that equation. So anyway, that then leads to, oops. Oh, okay. Just some floor plans of the community center, the cultural center, housing on top, parking down below. And then finally to create, and the idea of create is to intersperse maker spaces and other creative spaces within the community, not just in one place. And then also these become community centers, centers for exhibition, centers for gathering on the basis of creativity. And you can see some of the examples of that, and then the diagrams that show that. And I think that's probably 10 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you.